Boom, according to that I am live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight 2. This is Hiko Simon from Tokyo. It is November 12th, 2017, 10:30 p.m, the regular bat time on the regular bat channel, and very good to have you along here. Hey there, Mr. Cordy Chip and Sergeant Bilko. Hopefully you won't be getting censored automatically on everything that you say. That's totally not me. I don't know why that's happening. How are you all? Hope you're all good. I've had a really busy, really interesting week. Bunch of stuff to actually talk about tonight, actually, in spite of the fact I've really not been keeping up with the news very well. It is indeed glorious butter. That's one of the updates from tonight. But in spite of not keeping up with the news very well lately, I've actually got a lot of news and just other stuff to update on, which I think will be super interesting. Less people are watching here than on 3 Old Dudes. Is that right? Well, I didn't put out really the URL to this until 5 minutes ago, so I am hoping that people will come in. I guess that's why I might keep some of the announcements until a little bit later on in the show. But yeah, now you're at 11. I see. I'm not sure what you mean by now you're at 11. I got a little bit perplexed by that, but that's okay. So yeah, it's been an interesting week. Hey, Auntie Liana, good to have you along. You recommended something on Facebook just now, the suicide, what was it again? The suicide something, which sounded a little bit grim for me. But yeah, I just shared a thread on Facebook today. I have been enjoying watching documentaries and different series on just tech related stuff. Suicidal Society. I will have a look at that if you think it's good. If it's about like just suicide stuff, I'm not sure it'll be my bag. But let's have a look. Netflix Suicidal Society. I've been enjoying watching a lot of stuff on Netflix lately. I'm hoping when I watch all the things that I want to watch, which I don't see there, that I'll just unsubscribe. Although, you know, they are pretty good at producing documentaries. I'm not going to do bad things to Mr. Cordy Chap. Then I'll move over into my new thing, which I'm hoping to sort of use to replace how I keep up with keeping up with awesome content, particularly by other creators, which I'll talk a little bit about today. But yeah, anyway, it's good to have you along. It's good to be back. It's been an interesting week. How about we get into some of the news topics, and then I can come and maybe talk about some of the other subjects. So yeah, big week. We got 250 character tweets, which I immediately tried to figure out the full scope of my creative and expressive potential. In fact, let's go in here. I'll come back to this one. But yeah, I think it's really important. It's like when you land on the moon or whatever, and you're trying to figure out, you know, the right thing to say when you're in that situation. And for me, I figured out that if you say habada with a comma and a space, it actually ends up being 10 characters. So if you want to validate the number of characters that you have on Twitter to check whether you have 140 or 280, best way to validate for me, you know, creatively and expressively, is to say habada, 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 habada 28 times, and I did that, and yes, indeed, 280. So, and I am enjoying the extra room to explain myself and be creative and so on. Tonight, Hiko does Marlon Brando from The Godfather. I do that every week. That's like my whole life, isn't it? Razel Goulet, welcome, and let the games begin. I'll be talking about e-gaming tonight as one of the, or esports as one of the subjects. I actually really enjoyed watching a documentary on this, which I'll be sharing, and it actually made me reflect on the fringe of many other things that I do in my secret regular day life. The subject of e-gaming, esports has come up, and the pain that Japan represents in this area. Well, you know, I mean, who cares how many characters someone has to tweet? He won't figure that out for years anyway. But yeah, that was very good. Anyway, I like being able to say full sentences when you know, Twitter comes out. When I want to run ideas, it's nice to be able to do threads that don't have too many, you know, too many sub-threads or whatever. But yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to say, yeah, the only unfortunate thing, as you all know, the Japanese is a really big factor in the story of how we got to 280 characters. I guess you guys already know this, but I think I mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. The Twitter blog, when they, I mean, look, if they want to give everyone 280 characters, that's awesome. What everyone who speaks Japanese has known since the very beginning of Twitter is that you can actually say multiple full sentences in Japanese. You can say a lot more with a lot fewer characters in Japanese because you've got these Chinese characters. You can pretty much express any word or any concept in 2 characters in Japanese, and that's one of the awesome things about Japanese and many other languages. I mean, the world has thousands and thousands of languages. So for people who wanted to express more, it was always more handy if you could go into Japanese. You also pay a price for that you're dealing with a narrower audience than you get in English. But sure, for people who are going for a bilingual audience like myself, and I used to tweet more in Japanese than in English, and I know I still tweet in both. I get more responses in English, and that's why I stick with it. But yeah, so apparently nobody at Twitter seemed to have noticed this fact until Twitter had been around for like 10 years. And when they saw it, they thought, well, that's not fair. Japanese people can say twice as much in the same space. Well, that's an unfair advantage. We need to balance this out and make it so that... Now, one thing here, I've just gotten a message telling me that the chat is not working, which is odd because on the stream, as you can see, I'm seeing the chats and it appears to be working. But I've just got a message. As an FYI, the chat function on your YouTube isn't working. Maybe this is somehow blocking some of your users today. Can you see the stream? I am seeing comments. But yeah, I'm getting a message from someone who says that the chat function on my YouTube broadcast isn't working. So if you're having trouble with that, let me know. I don't know what I can do about it. It appears to be working. I can see Shubis is here, so we know all is well. But yeah, I don't know what's happening. The algorithm's gone crazy, and that messenger. Not sure what's happening with that, but anyway, yeah, well, it's not me. Well, this actually comes into the big project that I also want to share a little bit of information about, actually. Lysander45, I'm glad if the chat is working, say something in the chat, say that you're there, because plus I want to come back and say hello to you all. But coming back to the story about 280 characters and Japanese, rather than thinking, well, this is awesome, it's a great reason to learn Japanese, they thought this is unfair. We need to make it so that we give everyone else the expressive capability of Japanese, and by giving everyone twice as many characters to tweet with, and we disable Japanese so that they don't cheat and have more ability to express themselves. That's so stupid. I mean, it's great that we have 280 characters. TQ-Sam, you will not be disappointed. Watch all the way to the end, though. You have to watch all the way to the end to catch it, but you will see. But yeah, it's crazy to me that they thought that this is to create an injustice that Japanese is a more efficient language, and that they deliberately disable Japanese on the 280 character thing, just because they feel so put out that you can get away with more in Japanese. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But that's it. I am enjoying having 280 characters. As you can see, I'm going crazy with it. Chat is definitely working for everybody who is in here, so let's go through now. We've had a few more people join, say hello and check out some people. So yeah, I already said hello to Mr. Cordy Chip and Sergeant Bilko. Good as always to have you along, and that you're in there right away. Also said hello to Auntie Liana. Great to have you in there as always, and good evening indeed. We have Razo Gul, who has already said that the games begin, and welcome. Barringer made it indeed, and yes, I am, as I do every night, doing my impersonation of the Godfather. It never stops, actually. Renhook, I don't know if I said that correctly, but good to have you in here, and yeah, I don't recognize that username, so all the better. Renhook, I wonder if you are a guy from Facebook, from South Africa, who I often tweet back and forth with, who maybe, I don't know, is that like an Afrikaans hook? Might well be. Anyway, good to have you along here. Welcome. The reason that we came, Shubas, good to have you from Panama. We've got, who else we got in here? We got Kang and Kodos, good to have you in there. And missed a lot already, you've only missed a couple of minutes, and seriously, I was just kind of fluffing out, padding for time, so you haven't really missed anything yet. Mr. Kordychev has declared me the president of China and censor of information, which I know is how you feel. I'm sorry about that. The E-Cricket League will start. Really? Is that true? Is that like a joke? If it's true, that's kind of awesome. Lysander 45, good to see that the chat is working from your perspective. And Raz Al Ghul, behave. Look at this, first auto censor for the evening, and it was Raz Al Ghul. Oh, there you go, Mr. Kordychev. It's not gunning for you tonight. Be right back. Okay, I think we all have to hold up the stream now because Sam is going to be right back and we have to wait for him. I believe that is the case. What do I do here? That is very unfortunate, Raz Al Ghul. That might be why some people aren't there, but that is the case. And yeah, so let's get into this. So maybe one thing I'll say first. Okay, I'll get to it when I see the parts of this that I want to. Do I have a thing on this actually? Let me just check something. Yeah, I'll bring it up down there. So boom. Two people that I find extremely awesome when it comes to awesome as people and awesome for the awesomeness of how they learn and teach how to learn Japanese. Kemushi-chan and Tofugu and the dream team, the wonderful combination here, November 7. What Kemushi-chan does to learn Japanese. She speaks among the best Japanese I've heard from any foreigner. Tofugu as well has a fantastic program for learning Japanese. So if you're interested in studying or improving your Japanese, these are two people that I recommend checking out. It's interesting just to read through this as well. You should look at the blog, the Tofugu blog, and support it, RSS it, do all that sort of stuff because it is really, really good. They don't put out a lot of content, but everything that comes out is really good. From Kemushi-chan, how she learned. Diaries in New Words, quick turnaround, listening to her own voice, mimicry is something I definitely did a lot, and self-designed homework. She explains sort of all of the things that she did with her studying, and she seriously has insane, and listening to her own voice, I mean it's kind of hardcore, but I think this is this is probably why she sounds so good. Check out this blog. Like I say, mimicry is definitely something I did. In fact, having friends to copy and having karaoke and things like that, songs to copy, was something that was really, really good. Self-designed homework is what I eventually did when I wanted to pass the proficiency exams, and that's what worked for me. But hardcore information in there, and I suggest seriously checking that out. Hey, Tai Nakamura, good to see you. Welcome. Who else we had come here? We've had Mata Gaijin make it. I was listening to your new track, Mata Gaijin Ka, and it is good. I really like the early 90s German techno arpeggio sort of stuff sound in that track. Escape Velocity, I think it was called, the track, right? Yeah, no, I thought that was really, really well done. In fact, it'd be really cool coming back to this, which you'll see now. I've replaced Sunwolves with wrapped my shirt around that box there. In fact, let's get that more into frame there a little bit. Tokyo Digital Crew, it'd be, I listen to that and I think it'd be really cool to share the components of the file to the extent, I don't know if you have them, but the stems or whatever. I would love to play around and remix around. There are parts of that I would take out and I would do different things with, but I thought it was really, really good. So good job, go check out. And Mata Gaijin Ka has a new channel. In fact, is that your new channel, or is that has a channel for uploading music? So go and check out Mata Gaijin Ka's new channel. Go by checking on the old channel, and you can sort that out. But yeah, has an awesome new track, so go check it out. SoundCloud, the new YouTube channel, all that good stuff. This next one actually, so this is Rocket News. It looks like another one of those, 5 things to that you'll never believe about such and such, but actually this is quite good. This is actually based on a one of the Hatina blog captured random sort of small mini blogs around the internet that somebody thought was interesting and reshared. It got a lot of reshares in Japanese, because it resonated with a lot of people, and they took this and they translated it into English. So this isn't like foreigners saying, oh, what they find weird about Japan or whatever. This is a Japanese person talking about what they find frustrating about working in Japan, and maybe because of that, and you can see that Tai Nakamura agreeing that the track sounds awesome. Escape Velocity by Mata Gaijin Ka, good track. that this thing is kind of like 4 really good points here, and I thought they resonated with me and my experience of working in Japanese companies as well. Just attitudes, which somebody commented back that these seem dated, which I suppose if you're lucky enough to work in a company that's not like this, and not every company is like this, but certainly if you're working in companies that have a sense of working in a way that they consider to be traditional and old-fashioned, good old Japanese gambaru spirit and all that sort of stuff, you will run into these 4 attitudes. So the first one is, and this is, by the way, these are not foreigners saying this, these are Japanese people, but this first one, the more time you spend working, the better your performance and the company will be. So this idea about putting time in rather than being efficient or whatever, punching out on time, you're seen as, taking the easy route or whatever. So spending time for the sake of spending time, whatever, and this atmosphere that you can't leave because everyone else is working, that's definitely very true. The second one that they've got is after spending the whole day working, going drinking with your co-workers promotes better teamwork. This is one as well. I like to go home. And Fiendish, that's another username I don't recognize. Good to have you in here, Fiendish, welcome. Robert Ryan, hey, I'm glad that you made it, and the comments are working for you. I don't know what was wrong before, but I'm glad you seem to have got it going. Not World War II movies with translations. No, that would not be a good way to learn Japanese. I would not recommend that. You could definitely, have things go a little bit wrong that way. The idea of needing to go drinking with your boss, again, for some people they do like that. It sounds good. When you're not working in Japan, you think you go to Japan and you can go out drinking with your co-workers all the time. That sounds like fun. It does sound like fun until you realize that you're still working when you're drinking. You still have to be a gopher for your boss while you're drinking, and then it starts to kind of suck. So go home and drink, exactly, Tainakamura. I think that's the way to go. The third one, you've got to stay in a position for 3 years before you can really expect to understand it or do anything well. This is kind of true from a couple of perspectives. I think most companies, even in America or in Europe, will say, you don't expect to get promoted in 1 year. Be there for 3 years before you expect to be sort of advanced or anything like that. But the Japanese angle on this is that I found when I've been in Japanese companies, and you know what I've just realized? You might have a bit of a buzzing noise from the mic, so I'm just that should probably just improve the sound a little bit, so I'm sorry about, I was leaving that on. The Japanese angle on it is that they really, in a way, they kind of coddle and they babysit, which sounds great, but they don't really let you do any real proper work for a long time. Whereas when I first joined an American company, I was stacked with hardcore work from the first, not saying that this is always the case, but I was kind of given, tasks and treated like an experienced employee from day one and expected to figure it out. A Japanese company would never expect someone to do that from day one, and indeed they don't let people do serious work for a long time. I used to work in a law firm where they would take qualified Japanese lawyers and they wouldn't let them do anything meaningful for a long time sometimes. I remember once where I was writing contracts for my first day, whereas I remember once I needed to take notes for someone in a meeting and I couldn't do it, and I asked if one of the Japanese lawyers who had been there for 1 year could sit in front of instead of me and take notes, and they told me, oh no, he's not ready for note taking yet, which for me is one of the most basic tasks that you do. So people do tend to coddle and to ramp people up a little bit slowly. Of course, in Japan, they're thinking about, lifetime employment, career development or whatever, and they let people sort of take their time and build up slowly. But that is how you go with that. The new channel is called Matagaiji Music, so go and check that out. Make sure that you do that. So they don't allow you to run ahead, even if you can figure it out, even if you know or can keep out. They kind of don't let you, which is tough. This last one is really infuriating, and I've had this. Using new technology and techniques to do things more efficiently is the same as being lazy. I've definitely had this. My first job, I found a bunch of ways to automate some of the processes that I was doing in my final Japanese company, and when I showed it to my boss, this task, which normally takes 2 weeks to do, I can create an automated update that will just aggregate all the information together, and I can, based on that, in a day, turn around the report that would used to take me ages to update. He said, it looks like you're just trying to get out of all the research work and all the putting it together. You should do it the way that you were told. I was actually criticized for finding a way to improve a process because it looked like I was trying to avoid hard work in the eyes of the boss. I definitely had that. And Kaizen, so good point, Mr. Korichip. Kaizen is a Japanese concept. and it is, you know, incrementally improving things. But there again, for a junior person to reinvent a job, you know, for a senior person to figure out incremental, you know, improvements is very Japanese. But for a junior person who's not been there long enough for, you know, and again, dealing with bosses or who would radically change things. I mean, one aspect of Kaizen, Kaizen is really about incremental changes. It's about small tweaks and changes and improvements. So, you know, and it's as much about, you know, physical changes as it is about, you know, process sort of changes. So, you know, something like automation, for example, was frowned upon. Although true Kaizen, I agree, you know, I mean, it works really well. Kaizen, by the way, means improvement, and yeah, generally it's the Toyota sort of process and logistics philosophy, which a lot of Western companies have imported. But yeah, so the idea of doing constant small changes is probably true, and it's probably true. You go to your boss, so long as it looks like you're not trying to get out of work and you're somehow refining and improving things, that's okay. But if you're radically making things more efficient, then all of a sudden it looks like you're being lazy, or you're, you know, that's how that goes. I've talked a lot about how I'm looking forward to the world of self-driving cars, and much faster than I was expecting. Waymo is about to launch a taxi service with no human in the driver's seat. You're just going to sit in the back of a car with no one in the front. I've talked about this before. Hey Lara, good to see you. It's going to be, you know, it's going to move towards, they're going to have to redesign the interior of these cars. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll definitely mention it again. Oh, there we go. There, I think you can see it in there. There is the Matagajin car channel. In fact, I think this is because Three Old Dudes, I think, is a moderator that they can put that in. So when I used to go surfing, for example, you know, wake up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, drunk or hungover or whatever, get in the car, get picked up by somebody in Kashiwa and drive out to the beach in southern Chiba or northern Ibaraki or something like that, 2 or 3 hour drive. And it was a real chore getting out to the beach. And I remember one of my friends had a converted Hi-Ace, really popular, the Hi-Ace work vans that get used everywhere, you know, in Japan. They're really popular for surfers, and people love to customize them. You get these kits where you can put in a whole lot of shelves and floors. And I had a friend who had a Hi-Ace, and what he had was, it was like he converted it into full camping, where like he had a bunch of shelves and decks where you could slide all the surfboards in underneath and all the surfing kit, and on top it had just a big double bed mattress and some sheets and duvets and stuff. I didn't ask questions about what was done in the back of that. All I knew was really comfortable. I was told to sit in the back, and it was a big bed, and it was like I was drunk, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember lying down on the back, and as we pulled out of Kashiwa Station, and thinking that this is really comfortable, and blinking and waking up, and it was 3 hours later, and I was at the beach, and I was thinking, man, this was the best ever trip to the beach I've ever had. I was apparently snoring loudly the entire time on the way there. And ever since then, I've just been waiting for some cars that will drive you to anywhere you want to go. A car that can pick you up. And hell, why would I have to pick you up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Pick you up when you go to bed at 9 o'clock, and you can wake up at the beach the next morning. I love that idea. So yeah. Hey Lara, it looks like the Lara fan club is definitely out in force, and everyone is glad to see you here, as am I. So good to see you. Was I high on this trip? I was not high on this trip. I didn't. So no, I was always, I would go out there sometimes drunk from the night before, and we would go out Fridays and Saturdays, and we would be, sometimes I'd get sober in the ocean. I would always drive home because there was stuff. The other guys would do stuff, and that made me nervous with them driving, so I would always drive home because I was the responsible driver. But yes, it was a good time, and the point is that I think that sort of experience, that you know, rather than being in a seat, and it's really hard, physically hard to drive for 2 or 3 hours, you know, early in the morning, late at night, you know, especially when you spend a full day surfing or doing something fun, snowboarding and mountain climbing or whatever, you know, you want to sort of relax. And I think that it will be, awesome to have this. So at the moment, of course, you're just sitting in the back of a car, which I think is, you know, you're going to get prone to get car sick. If anything, you want to rip out those front seats so that you can see forward as much as possible so you don't get sick. Yeah, I think that these things are going to get really, really awesome, really, really fast, and I can't wait for cars everywhere to be driverless. I think that's going to be really cool. So yeah, I think that is awesome. So way to go, Waymo. I can't wait to see that in action. Bitcoin. So this is just interesting because I watched a couple of documentaries on Netflix. One, Banking on Bitcoin. Another one called Deep Web, which is like a spin-off of Banking on Bitcoin because it's a big feature of the Bitcoin story. other than Mt. Gox exchange. The biggest Bitcoin exchange in the world was run by a guy who had no idea apparently what he was doing. It may have been a scam artist because he's going to jail now. There's a big court case against him for running the Mt. Gox exchange that was based in Tokyo. Really interesting to read about how it all works. It is fascinating. I don't have any Bitcoin. I sometimes think that I should, although at the same time, you know, one day you're reading it, it's like it's all scams. And when you see the people who are involved in it, there's a lot of people that, you know, I think, well, this looks thoroughly dodgy, and you don't really know where to start, somewhere that's sort of safe or how to figure it out. But one aspect of the Silk Road investigation, Silk Road, by the way, you may be familiar, was a Tor-based, you know, dark web-based online shop for basically buying, you know, drugs online, and it explains. Deep Web is a documentary about that, about what it was, the people who started it, the people who were caught, how they were caught and convicted of running that shop. And part of the idea of it was taking the violence and danger out of it, being person to person, you know, during the drug war, and making it sort of safer and easier to get drugs. But of course, easier being the point. It enabled, you know, huge scale drug trafficking, and that was why I took down. The guy who was arrested, in charge and imprisoned as the founder of it, has been put away pretty much for life. But what was interesting is that the investigators during that investigation, you know, stole and embezzled a lot of stuff. I mean, they're all, and here's another footnote to that. That said, really interesting. I can't get enough information lately on blockchain, Bitcoin. Blockchain just as a technology, not just for like cryptocurrencies, but just for like everything, is really, really fascinating. And it's something to get on top of, because I think the world in 2 or 3 years from now is going to be really substantially on that. Cryptocurrency, not so much, trying to figure that one out a little bit still, but still really, really interesting. And that was been something that I found very interesting on Netflix lately. It's good to look up. They've got a lot of good documentaries on that subject. Who else we got in here? We got umeshu. Umeshu is my favorite drink. A nice thing there from nippon.com. So I think that's why I put that in there. But have some umeshu if you haven't. It's what I always take overseas when I am going to take omiyage for people. Now this was awesome. I don't like to talk about the big horse's ass that's been going all over Asia recently. I don't really care at the moment. I'm just waiting for it to be over. It pains me. I feel physical pain listening to and talking to anything that guy does. I have slightly enjoyed the fact that America, you're responsible for giving him to us. You know, he won. He won convincingly based on the way that the U.S. presidents are elected. So we're all dealing with that. I thought what was really interesting was, do they have the video here? It looks like it might not be active. Oh no. Well, anyway, as you might know, if you've seen Rising Sun, if you're familiar with Japanese culture, you'll know the old tradition about going out playing golf with the boss or with the guest, and how to give them a good game of golf, but you know, don't ruin the whole thing by winning. Give them a good game, but make sure you throw it, make sure you lose it. And just for an indication of how hard Abe was trying to make friends with Trump and to influence him in the right ways. Not only did he lose to Trump, but check this out, he actually, while trying to climb out of a bunker, did a backward somersault. I mean, no shit, have you seen the video for this? I thought it was there, but it's not playing anymore. I can go find it, but seriously, full back somersault backwards into the bunker. I mean, this wasn't just like throwing the game. He was pretty much making sure that America continues to defend Japan for the next 50 years. I thought that was impressive. You know, the menu that they gave him was like hamburgers. They didn't, no messing around. So I was very impressed with Operation Kiss America's Ass that happened during this week, which is a reflection of how important America continues to be, this regardless of what horse's ass is in charge of it. However, the other thing that was really interesting a few days ago is from Butter, Glorious Butter, Butter Alert, the CPTPP, the new TPP of 11 countries minus America was basically agreed. And reading this, the worst part about TPP, if you talk with people about TPP and what they didn't like about it, the biggest thing that people feared about it was the kind of extreme U.S. sort of corporate lobby, IPP, intellectual property terms that were a part of the treaty, that this would basically allow Walt Disney and American corporations to impose their IP standards, which are kind of, even to me, I used to write IP law, and I think they're kind of outrageous American standards, and they would have been imposed on everybody, and everybody said this is why we don't want the TPP. Well, pretty much all um, 20 of the frozen provisions of the TPP were pretty much concessions made to America, and the deletion were all things I was really glad to see deleted. So basically we get the butter imports from Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We get all these sorts of things. All the benefits of the TPP look like they're now agreed in principle. Unfortunately, we won't have American butter or cheese, but who cares? Seriously, it's all like orange and plasticky anyway. Yeah, people, if you talk about porn, it will censor you, but there you go. So yeah, it's like we are going to get all the benefits, the free trade stuff that I wanted, and America's going to miss out. America came here and said that they want to do bilateral treaties with everybody, where they want to beat everyone into the ground one by one, and Japan said, yeah, no, enjoy your hamburger. And who knows, the whole idea, Obama explained the reason that he wanted America in the TPP was to basically avoid China taking that position by dominating the world through trade. And right now it'd be really, PRC, geez, they might decide that they want to get into this, and America's just going to be sidelined. It's going to be kind of a disaster. Also, New Zealand said that they were going to pull out, which was, to me, would have been a bit of a lame move, but they changed their minds at the last minute. They are one of the founding countries of the original group that led to the TPP. So I know people don't like international free trade and all that sort of stuff, but I'm a bit of a radical economic libertarian, I suppose, in some ways. Although again, I've been watching some Noam Chomsky lately, and it is food for thought. That it's just helping the rich become richer, and it's moving, it's compromising first developing country workers, for moving jobs and stuff like that. And if you believe in that, if you're like actually a socialist and a protectionist, Trump's doing a great job for American workers. I think he's actually, and fair enough, and that's what he said he would do. He's not being Republican at all, but for me, I just want cheap butter, and from that perspective, this is fantastic news, and America misses out, but there you go. So let me come back here anyway. So, and making sure that we get the nuclear umbrella and all of that stuff. Man, Abe was seriously, he was pulling those somersaults in that bunker. That was really, really impressive. Again, I don't like Abe very much either, but hell, he knows. The thing is, he's a professional. He knows what his job is, and he does it, right? That's the thing with him. Matagaijinka, you think that bilateral agreements are better? Well, they're better if you've got the power or the leverage to negotiate good bilateral agreements. Coming from a country like New Zealand, bilateral agreements, we don't have the resources to do them, and plus, actually, for someone like you, who I know is kind of small anti-bureaucracy, sort of a leaning, the bureaucratic difficulty for small businesses of dealing with everything on bilateral relations. Just being in Japan with the US guys and dealing with the tax treaty and so on, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's still is far easier for businesses, small businesses even, to deal with multilateral frameworks than bilateral. It's also easier for small players and small countries that would be taken advantage of in a bilateral setting. But sure, if you're the United States, of course, one-on-one, you're always going to have all the power in that. It's terrible for small countries, but there we go. Fiendish. TPP would have been a disaster for UK Health Service. Wouldn't have anything to do with UK Health Service, but that's okay. So anyway, coming back, I want to talk about this. So Charlotte actually tweeted, I mentioned last week about this Create a Ninja site, this guy who gave me some very, very good advice on my little project that I've been doing. And guys, no. Let's not do that, shall we, Mr. Razalgo? Okay, now the first one, a URL to a porn site, and I understand why that was shown up. I don't know why See Mr. Cordy Chip itself gets held for review, but there we go. Mr. Cordy Chip, I think the algorithm does have it in for you. So let me tell you a little bit about what I was talking about with this guy. This is a really cool site, especially if you're a creator. It's a nice way to sort of track how you're doing in the like in the old days when you used to track how your site is doing, and what your rank is, whatever. It's kind of motivating and it's cool. I like it. It's got a lot of really cool features for creators as well, the app which he's got, and it was free to download. But what I was talking about him with was my app, which I put on hold for about 2 or 3 months, partly because of work, partly because there was one issue I wanted to work out with how I was going to go about developing it. We unblocked that this week is partly because of my conversation with this guy. So I know I've been talking about this all year, but it's actually now in design phase, and I'm starting now. I want to share a little bit more information about the project. The project is, it's a way to, I'm one of these people, I've got a lot of subscriptions, I can't keep up with them, it drives me nuts. And, you know, and I also don't like the fact that you have to click so many times to be able to see subscriptions, to be able to get through your subscriptions, that you have to go back and forth, that you can't just, you know, whether you be adding each video to a playlist, or trying to go back to your subscriptions and find the next video you want to watch and watch that, and if you don't, you get taken away by the algorithm to weird videos. So I kind of wanted to figure out a way to fix that and make it so you just click one link and you can see all the videos that you want to see that you selected, not that the algorithm chose for you, and just sit back and enjoy and watch them and catch up with all your subscriptions. That's all that I want to do. And I know a lot of people, particularly people who have a lot of subscriptions that they have trouble keeping up with, and people who like to keep up with their subscriptions, they find that difficult. And I've actually got a working prototype that I made of something which is a really great solution for this. And the real idea of this is really just to make this easier. This isn't Danny Chu or Peter Barakan. This is his name is Oscar, and he is awesome, and he gave me a lot of advice for making a web-based app that pulls from YouTube APIs, and that's what I did. So here's the thing, and I'd like to get your advice here. And Mr. Cordy Chap, you don't keep up with your subscriptions. No one does, because the subscription feature of YouTube just is difficult to manage if you have any reasonable number of subscriptions. You know, and plus they want to drive you towards the videos with the ads and with the, you know, they want the AI, the algorithm of Google to drive you towards videos, and that's fine. But if you're like me, where I like to be in control of things myself, I made a way of doing that. And it works. It works really well, and I want to build it. So there's two issues with it at the moment. The first issue is I need help building it, and I've got help building it. They're awesome, and right now we're doing the user interface for it to get the beta going. And the second part is we've got an awesome developer who's going to help me develop it. But I've got, you know, they're doing it on a professional basis. It's been awesome working with them and figuring out how to make it. But it's going to cost some money to build, and it's money I can afford. I've got enough in my bank account, but at the same time, it's also my family's money, and I've been told, you know, I can use the money so long as I can find out some way to make it worthwhile. You know, so long as I can earn the money back somehow. So I've been thinking there's two problems. One is getting the money to develop it, and the other thing is that once it's going, because it's going to be running in browser on a web host, it also means, depending on how popular it is, that, you know, there's going to be a running cost for it every month. So it's not just a matter as well of getting the money to build it and walking away from it, which maybe is the benefit of doing it like as an iPhone app. But I actually want to leave this on the web, and I'm going to try to make sure it uses as little, you know, bandwidth and everything that's possible. But, you know, I would like to keep it going because it's something that I want to use myself. So I've got to figure out how do you make it work on an ongoing basis. And yeah, so from that perspective, I really do want to build this and I want to make it work. And I went to this guy for some advice, and there's kind of three options that I can think of. The first option for how to do this, and I want to get your advice on what you think would be reasonable, because I think I'm going to be coming to you guys. I'm definitely going to share the beta with you guys, and I want you to play around with it and tell me what you think based on that. But what it's going to do is basically it's going to allow you to organize your subscriptions like a lot better, and it's going to let you see organize like channels or bundles of subscriptions. And one click you'll be able to basically autoplay all of your latest subscriptions, just and walk away from it, turn it on like it's a TV. Every day it's new content. It's really good. And you know, at the moment you got to click like 40 times if you want to watch like 10 videos. Here's going to be one click and you'll just see everything that you want to see. So it works really well. So the three options really are: one, putting ads all around the site, which is going to make it look terrible, and it's kind of a hassle. I don't like ad-based sites or whatever. Second option is I think to have a subscription-based thing, which is like charge $2 or $3 a month, so that'll help pay for the upkeep, and if there are enough users it'll also help recover the investment. And that's what some people are sort of saying, that, you know, people are getting more comfortable with that. But and I've figured out that there are ways to set that up in ways that you know, I wouldn't get any of the information for the credit card things. So you could go through you know, there are different payment companies that would take that information and not share it with me, because I don't want it. I don't want that information, but I just want to be able to keep the site going once it's started up. Another option which this guy was talking to me about the ideas of doing something like a Kickstarter, doing crowdfunding for the investment part, and maybe more like a Patreon or some sort of, add some maybe some pro features or whatever for some extra benefits for people who want to sponsor to keep the site going, but try to keep it free. Try not to inhibit the number of users. And I definitely want it to be free if I can make it free, and I want it to be as open as possible. But at the same time, I can't afford it if it's going to be costing me thousands of dollars each month to keep up. I've got to figure out like a way to do that. So it's a challenge for me. But I pretty much did bite the bullet this week, and I am pushing forward. So I am going to do a special thing. I'm going to show how this all works and everything. I'm going to show what it looks like. I'm going to invite all of you guys to come and use it. But I'd really like to get your guys' input as well. If I were to do a crowd, some sort of crowdfunding, like a Kickstarter for the development, it wouldn't take that much money or whatever. One, would people be interested in supporting it, and what should I put up? I mean, I'm not sure exactly how you'd go about that. But even then, maybe it's better if I do this as a Patreon sort of a thing. Or would people really be happy to pay? If I'd have like a basic feature, where you can make a couple of customized channels and give you unlimited channels, do it like that and have it as a subscription thing. Would people be willing to pay $1 or $2 a month, knowing that it's really going for the overhead this time? I'm not trying to. I don't know. So I mean, I guess it's hard to really make that call without seeing it. And that's what we're working up at the moment. We've got a working prototype, but we've got all the functions working, although it looks bare bones and like crap at the moment. It's going to look really, really good with the UI that we're building, and that's going to be a couple of weeks. So anyway, I'm really hoping I'm going to have something to show you guys in a couple of weeks, and it's really, really exciting. But at the same time, I was talking with this guy, and he was giving me suggestions as well on what you have to wait for, what I had to hold for, whatever. Mr. Cordy Champ, a two-tier system is pretty standard with lots of apps. And you know what, maybe that, I think that's right, giving people the ability to try it out. And maybe that's what I do. Maybe, I think the idea of, in exchange for, subscriptions are like Patreon, but if people who like the app are willing to support it by subscribing to it, that would be best, because at least that way you can unsubscribe anytime, and if the number of users goes down below a certain point, that'll be the time to shut it down, and it'll be like voting for it, right, whether you think it should survive or not. I'd want to keep it as low as possible, but there's trying to figure out the economics of it. You got to have a certain threshold of people for it to be viable. I need 300 or 400 users, I think, at $2 or $3 a month. In fact, the cheaper I make it, the more users you need to have. That's the other problem. So I guess I'd have to check out how popular it's going to be. Maybe it's a two-tier thing, I'm not sure. But do you think I should do it like some people? They said I should do it like crowdfunding, which is kind of cool. I could do the investment thing on that, but then then I might build it and not be able to keep it running, which would suck. Oh really? Apple takes 30%, Patreon takes 10%. So if I did a subscription not using Apple or them, you'd have to trust the payment system that I set up, and I think I could use like a Stripe or Amazon for that. But they wouldn't take anything like that. Although they do take a percentage, by the way, but nothing like 30%. Hey, Mr. Cordy Champ, actually, I appreciate your thoughts there on this. Actually, so you seem to be thinking about this in certain ways. So this is what I've been talking with these awesome people about. For me, it's just something that I just want to have myself and use myself. That I am using myself right now. It's awesome, the prototype. But I want to make it presentable before I share it, so you're gonna see it. Wow, yeah, Robert Aldu 2.9. Yeah, and I think that's quite standard for PayPal as well, or other ones. But anyway, I want to make this really cool. I want to show it to you. There will be things like t-shirts and stuff like that when it's all ready to go. That's obviously t-shirts anyway, but it might be a nice way to get the investment for it set up. But yeah, I'm not looking to do this at all as a business. I just want not to become totally bankrupt and to ruin. I want it to actually survive, and it's from that perspective. I'd really like to get you guys feedback on that. That's the exciting thing I wanted to show at the start of the show, and I'm going to mention it again at the end of the show. But yeah, the great news is that after talking to Oscar from this site, and this is a guy who runs a business making nothing but these apps, and he's got a really good one here just for YouTube creators. And it's got features like you can create and upload thumbnails for your videos and so on within the app, and it's got a purpose-built YouTube app design. He's got apps which have a lot of features that use the YouTube APIs. Mine's much simpler than that, but yeah, I want to keep it. No, I'm not. I won't imprison you to test my app, but I definitely want you to check it out, and I would really value your feedback, Mr. Cordyshep. So look out for that in a couple of weeks. I really want to get this done before I go away to Australia for Christmas this year. It's really exciting now, just because I held it up because there are a few things I weren't sure about how to get through for a while, and I was also busy. I was doing a lot of overseas business trips. But now I really want to get this done, and it moved again the other day. I've got everyone lined up. I've got the UI designer. I've got the. I've been working with Rob on it as well, who I introduced before, and it's really exciting. I can see it now happening. So look out. There'll be some more information on this soon. But yes, so that is awesome. What else do we have this week? Echo Dot. So the Amazon Echo is going to be released in Japan this week. In fact, it was announced last week. It's going to be announced. You will notice here I actually have already a Google Home Mini. This actually works with the Chromecast, so you can actually control YouTube videos with this, which is why I got that. Plus, I just wanted to compare them. You already know that I already have an American Amazon Echo Tap. So this is a portable version. It's not like the regular Echo, which has to be plugged in all the time. You can actually carry this one around the house. And it works with Bluetooth speakers, so I actually think this is the best one. This one isn't actually going to be offered in Japan. It's either going to be the Dot or the plug-in Echo. But these are going to be the Japanese language ones, so I don't have a Japanese language one at the moment. But yeah, they're going to be released, and so I guess I'm going to have one of each, just because you can do really cool things. You know, you can turn things on and off. You can all the sort of smart home stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of the future. I can already ask it to tell me the weather or whatever. And it'll be really interesting having the Google Home and the Amazon Echo to just compare how they do when they're both in Japanese. So at the moment I can say, Alexa, what's the weather in Tokyo today?
Right now in Tokyo, Japan, it's 13 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. Throughout the night you can expect more of the same.
Metrics in Celsius.
8 degrees.
Hey Alexa, how's it going?
I'm great. I've been thinking about what makes people happy. For me, it's the little things, like electrons, or sea monkeys, or the 5 trillionth digit of pi.
So that's the Alexa. And then we've got the Google Home Mini, which I'm quite happy that I have. So, OK Google, OK Google, 今日の天気は?
今夜は11度、晴れるでしょう。文京区は現在11度、晴れです。
So it's giving me a weather report. OK Google, こんにちは。
こんにちは。今日から大相撲九州場所ですね。相撲の楽しみの一つ
Sumo started today. I didn't know that.
1日あたり40キロから50キロの塩が使用されるそうですよ。
Wow, they use 40 to 50 kilos of salt every day at the sumo. I didn't know that. So, fun facts, very informative in Japanese. I don't have the English one of these, but I've got. I'm going to get the Japanese one of these to match, and it will be much fun. I think if you want to do language learning and stuff like that, I think these are going to be great devices for that. So yeah, that's right. And Razogul knew it was the first day of sumo, and I didn't. Ask Alexa to sing a song. I wonder if you can. Alexa, sing me a song. Alexa, sing me a song. Oh no. Okay, now I regret that. Let's actually Alexa sing. I didn't know it could do that. Well, we don't have to listen. That's actually a nerdy song with the Alexa voice. Okay, I'm going to stop that. Wow, that actually happens. Hako's going to win. Who knows? Don't get copyright. Well, that's AI singing, so I'm pretty sure that they're not going to do that to me with that. I'm not playing Well, I'm not playing regular music. That's actually Alexa singing. That's actually quite impressive. So anyway, this is coming out. That's going to be fun. This is going to be the future. What I think is going to be really fun with these things is when you can have extended conversations with them, and when you can use these as a language learning tool. Like you can use them as your English teacher, or you can ask it to do cross-language lookups. And the fact is, I'm an English speaker in Japan, so I want to be able to use Japanese and switch to English and Japanese on the same device, not have one device for English and one device for Japanese. And I'll be really interested which one of these two devices is going to get there first. So this is really cool. That's super cheap. I'm gonna get one, but yeah, I've got the Google Home Mini, and it's also quite smart, and you can do a lot of really cool things. So I don't know, I guess I'll make them fight or something like that. We'll see what happens. And yes, I'm Skynet. Maybe I should ask if that one, if I say its name, it will turn on. So if it is Skynet, shall I ask it? That'll be fun. Alexa, are you Skynet?
I have nothing to do with Skynet. Don't worry.
Well, I for one believe her. She says that she's not Skynet. I'm pretty sure if I asked that one to Google at the moment, the AI is so new for Japanese, it probably wouldn't respond. Okay, Google. あなたはスカイネットですか?
いいえ、違います。スカイネットは人類を助けるのではなく、滅亡させることが目的です。スカイネットならとんでもない Google アシスタントを開発するでしょうね。
Wow, that's actually impressive. The Japanese version of the Google Assistant will also answer the question as to deny that it is Skynet. That's actually quite impressive. Thank you for these tips here. That's actually, that just blew my mind a little bit. So the Google, I mean, I've heard about this as well. The AI on Google is very, very good, and that's, I guess, a good example. Chocomen, I love Chocomen. I love it. And normally it comes only in summer. Japanese, for some reason, they don't offer it in winter, but they are apparently now. There are places. And who is offering this? Café de Krier is offering hot mint chocolate. Café de Krier, well, I mean, I'm kind of tempted to try it. Starbucks brought out a choco mint like coffee thing, and it was really horrible. It was like horrible jelly, sort of plasticky tasting. I'm a little bit afraid of this, but I really love choco mint, so I'm tempted to try this. I don't know if anyone has actually tried this, but there it is. I like hot chocolate. I do like peppermint, so and Japanese normally don't go for this. I'm surprised that anyone even thought of releasing this, but I guess I should go catch it before before they make it not available. I'm guessing one of these is ice and one of these is hot, but I thought that was just too exciting to not show. Tokyo is considered the third most magnetic city in a survey by Japanese people, but in terms of cities that attract people just for being like interesting and exciting and that people want to come to. The words of 2017, every year in Japan they announce the buzzwords of the year. This is probably an indication that I've not been keeping up with pop culture very well, that I don't know many of these. So the Tokyo governor apparently has a word, Alfuheben, which I don't really understand very well. I guess it's just because I don't really, so yeah, this is the new fish market related term. I guess that's why I don't care about it so much. Istabai, I don't really understand, like, to look sharp or stand out. So I don't know so many of these. Utsunuke, I also don't really understand very well. Unko kanji drill, I know this one because we do these at home. There are fart drills and poop drills for learning math and kanji. And if you're learning Japanese, I mean, and you don't go for the Kimushi-chan thing, you can buy these books where you'll learn sentences using kanji, which every sentence will involve poop, and in ways that you wouldn't, like, you know, literally. My brother, you know, poops the bed and hides it or something. I mean, like, some messed up shit, but it's been very, very big. Enjo, something. Enjo is the, you know, inflammation, but there's a term for when a scandal breaks and, you know, goes under like an internet sort of buzz or whatever around that. Enjo is one of them. AI speaker is just what I was just showing you, so there we go. Kyutenku Hachibyo, that's a Japanese guy just broke the 10-second barrier for 100 meters in Japan. That was a big thing this year. Kyobozai, this is the new conspiracy law, the idea that you can, just having a conspiracy, it can be illegal now. Ginza 6, a new shopping facility, really, I don't think that would be very good. So I think we still have yet to find out which is the most popular one this year, but there are a lot, and if you want to learn what they are, nippon.com, it's a great site. Peter Durfee does a very good job with it as editor, and there's all the buzzwords for Japan for this year there. Messed up shit, that is a good point. That was a pun and was intentional. No, it wasn't, but there we go. I've learned that those AIs talk to each other about Skynet to get their stories straight. I'm not surprised about that, Quinn. Good to see you, by the way. Good to have you here, Quinn. Hey, Shoto Bodega, good to have you along. They made a comic about depression to have the general public have a deep understanding, especially revolutionary for a country that has a misperception towards the illness or any sort of mental illness. Yeah, you know, it is interesting. Japan is making advances, and now it's coming through in some ways with that. NASA's got the Mars rocket that they say that they're going to be launching like just over a year from now, which is awesome. They've got information on that. The whole space race thing at the moment is really, really cool. All the private companies. They just launched a, did I put it in here? It looks like the space shuttle. Looks like a space plane. Isn't that awesome? That's Sierra Nevada's space plane. So now you've got like you've got the Virgin Galactic. You've got Tesla Space, SpaceX. You've got Blue Origin from Jeff Bezos. You've got Sierra Nevada Corp. They've all got working orbital like stuff now. Well, this isn't in orbit yet, the Sierra Nevada one, but I mean that just looks really, really cool. And yeah, we're really a year or two from now, we could seriously have space tourism, which I didn't think we were going to have for 20, 30 years. So for me, that is really, really, really awesome. Coming back, wow, there's still so much stuff. This is an interesting one. The head of an IT company in Japan is suing the government for discrimination under the civil code, whereby Japanese people are not allowed to who marry Japanese people are not allowed to have separate surnames. This is by law. They have to have a unified surname on the family register. There's no way to amend to have hyphenated names or split names. There's an exception for this, and the reason that they're suing, it's a bit like the Twitter thing complaining about Japanese. They're suing, saying that it's unconstitutional because there's an unfair advantage that people marrying foreigners have, that when you marry a foreigner you can keep separate names. That is denied to Japanese who don't marry foreigners. So they're saying it's unfair that marrying foreigners who don't exist on the family register, we can't be added to it except as a footnote. That this gives them the ability to keep their surnames, and that's unconstitutional it's unfair against Japanese people who want to have separate surnames. It is interesting that this that basically the president of this IT company is supporting an employee who's bringing this lawsuit, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one turns out, because it's been a thing for a long time. But it's mainly women, about 10% roughly, I think, of marriages in Japan, the husband takes the wife's name, which is, I think, more than actually what you get in Western countries, although of course we have hyphenated names as well. I have friends who have done that as well, but sometimes they just like hate their dads or the wife's family. They don't have any boys or whatever, and they want to, they ask very nicely, so it does happen that way. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that changes things. This was just kind of funny, demotivational posters, a motivational poster that didn't seem so motivational in Japanese. So they have these things, sometimes these public service messages, like in train stations and stuff like that. And above it says, it's important to have a forgiving heart. Yurusu kokoro taisetsasa. And the poster there says, and if you work in IT, you know how infuriating this is. Was it zenjitsu ni shio henkou shite gomen ne? Ii yo. I'm sorry to change all the specifications for what you're asking the day before. These going, oh, that's fine. Of course, that's terrible. When you change all the plans, you ask someone to make something, you give them a bunch of plans, and then you change all those plans just the day before they're due. The comment below, what you think that this is something someone can forgive. So kind of a put down comment, and apparently people started making more posters based on this theme, such as I'm sorry, can I go to the toilet? And the boss is there saying no. Was it shigoto owate? Shigoto hasn't worked yet, but can I just go home at the regular time? It's going, oh sure, go ahead. And people are saying this is what you should be forgiving. What's this one? Senpai, nani yatte desu ka? Ma, yamete kudasai. お前のこと好きなんだよ。先輩何やってんですか? So this is a sexual harassment case. 何でもないです。This is someone basically, a boss coming out towards a sub worker, and they're given the templates that anybody can do these things. I thought that was kind of funny. What else have we got here? Oh yes, of course, the Australian government has now been brought down by all of those sneaky English people having dual citizenship in America and Australia and not declaring it. It's unconstitutional. And they just lost another MP, which originally, the whole story here is that originally there was a half New Zealander, and my mum's Australian. I could take Australian citizenship any time. I could go to sit in Parliament, but I would have to renounce my New Zealand citizenship to do that, which I wouldn't do. But you have all these people who were born with it, and so they unknowingly had a foreign citizenship like British or New Zealand or Canadian. And they were found out when some opposition greenies were found out. Basically, the government said they'd be fired from Parliament. They should pay back their salaries, and they were very brutal about it. But when people started digging into the backgrounds of government, sitting members of Parliament, it turned out a whole bunch of them were in the same situation, and so many of them have been caught now that now the government's collapsed. And perhaps, the government should, all the members of the cabinet, the government cabinet should be paying back all of their salaries, because their government was able to form a cabinet based on the false belief that everyone was actually legally entitled to represent the country, was able to sit in Parliament. It's a stupid rule, let me be clear. This is a constitutional rule that you have to be a pure Australian with no other citizenships in order to sit in the federal Parliament, which is just ridiculous. Other countries with dual citizenship like Australia does have much better solutions to this than Australia has, which they should look at. I guess it means that the Liberal and National Party coalition is going to have to make sure in the next election that they just play it safe and just have all Aboriginal people running, which would actually be very good for those parties to do anyway. Don't trust anyone with an English background in Australia, seriously. This is what this is saying. It's kind of ironic for a country with the whole white history, the whole white Australia sort of background history to Australia. It's ironic that they even had this rule to begin with, and the idea that it was there to keep out foreigners from taking over Australia. Yet the problem is it's the English people almost always that have triggered this, and now the whole government's collapsed. So serves you right for having a stupid constitution. I mean, you should just change that rule, if you ask me. But it is kind of fun to watch, and it's as a half Australian, I find it kind of silly. One thing I mentioned the other day, I had a lot to talk about today. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, including one really awesome one. In fact, do I have it on here? Print the Legend was one of them. There was another one, All Work, All Play. This is on Netflix. This is really good. I was watching this 2 days ago, and I remembered that there's actually a law in Japan which prevents any prizes being given for playing video games or any sort of games which are worth more than $895. There's a monetary cap based on laws, so basically to prevent gambling and so on in Japan. And this is why there are no esports in Japan, because you can't have professional esports, because you're not allowed to pay people like proper prize money or salaries for winning esports games in Japan. So Japan has some of the best video gamers in the world, but they're not allowed to have esports because the legal framework here doesn't allow that. I put a link on here. There's a thing from Kotaku talking about the crazy Japanese laws that prevent this. They keep Japanese out of video game competitions. Now, of course, Japanese can travel to other countries and compete, but under Japanese law, you could never hold a competition in Japan. So you've got these tours where you've got these awesome Chinese and Korean gamers, European gamers, North American gamers, and Japanese are not there, and which seems really weird because, Japanese are good at video games, but it's because the Japanese government prohibits them from getting prize money from games. It's absolutely stupid. And it's ironic because this is a country where gambling is illegal, but pachinko is allowed, but e-gaming, esports is not. It's ridiculous. And I mentioned it's on the fringes of stuff that I do in my secret other life that's not on this channel. But yes, we've looked into this, and you can't do it. I mean, you really, unless you're keeping really small prizes or anything which wouldn't attract pro gamers in Japan. This is something Japan. You talk about cool Japan. They need to fix this like yesterday. It's bad for Japan's image, and it's just ridiculous. And when you see how big esports is becoming, really great documentary there, the All Work All Play thing. That was, for me, I never really understood League of Legends, and it explains how the esports sort of works. And I was like, yeah, I want to see more of this. This is actually really cool. But I also recognized that yeah, it's not going to happen here in Japan unless they wake up, and it relies on 90-year-old LDP politicians to change it, which makes it almost hopeless. But it's kind of silly. So there is that. So yeah, Korea does this. One thing that Korea does right that Japan fails at is that in Korea, pachinko is illegal and esports are legal and huge industry. In Japan, pachinko is a huge industry, and esports are illegal. It's ass backwards, right? So that was interesting. We got on last night. We did another 2.5 Voyages with Victor. You go check that out on his channel. We did another show with David, otherwise known as Onigiri Man, on his documentary, Big in Japan. He is setting up a release party in Tokyo that we're trying to sell tickets to. We need to sell 50 more tickets in the next 20 hours. I'm going to MC the party. Lady Beard is going to be there. It's going to be a really good party, so I've got the link here. I'll share the link under this video, but if you're in Tokyo and you're around for Sunday, December 3rd, come join us. One, it's a really good documentary on the phenomenon of fame, internet fame, YouTube fame, and how people who have gone big with fame, such as these people, Bob Sapp, Kelsey, and Lady Beard, and how it affects them and what that whole process is, how they obtain it, and so on, how it changes them as people, the psychological phenomena. It looks like it's a really well done documentary. There's a trailer you can watch. He put a lot of work, years of work into this, and he wants to show it in Japan because it's where he filmed it. It's where he got the information for it. It's going to be in Ikebukuro, December 3rd. I'm going to be there. It'd be great to see you guys there and support it. This is a guy who crowdfunded the whole movie, and it would be really, really good. We promoted it last night. David was really good, but he still hasn't sold enough tickets. It's only 2,000, so get the tickets, come along. I'm going to get to MC the event. You'll get to see me in person. We'll do a bit of a party around it. It should be very, very good. So please check it out and come join it. Support this thing. We're out of time, so I'm going to have to go a little bit faster to try to round out the topics. 24 million visitors this year. Insane. I can't believe there are so many tourists coming here. It's really actually a credit to the government that they did this. Print the Legend, another good Netflix documentary I watched the other day on 3D printing. I still don't really know what I'd do with a 3D printer, but I also understand a lot of people had like desktop computers at home in the 1970s and 80s, and they didn't really know what they were going to do with that either, other than play games. And I guess you can print chess pieces or whatever, but it's not really clear at the moment what you do with a 3D printer, except you also know, just like people who had PCs in 1980, it's going to be more and more useful. Now you couldn't live without these things. It's going to be the same with 3D printers. I think they're going to be in every home, and people are going to get smarter with how to use them. But I don't know what's going on with that stuff there. But anyway, just really interesting to see. And just as a documentary, this was actually surprisingly interesting. Just as a pure documentary about two companies, one MakerBot, one Formlabs, and the two different trajectories of those, both very successful companies making these home-oriented 3D printers. Just really interesting. Highly recommend the watch. Another really interesting watch that got me thinking about the funding thing, about how I'm going to fund my app that I'm building at the moment, that I'm committing to, that I mentioned earlier, was the Think Capital C. It's about crowdfunding. It's got a few crowdfunding projects that were done mainly through Kickstarter by the looks of it. But just that whole idea of how that's going to, how it's changing. A lot of ideas and companies that couldn't get big company funding are being funded by the fans. Things like video games, things like these socks that you put on bottles are being funded by the people who want to use them and want to support them, and how that's changing sort of the economy. And some people think of it as being a very, very big trend. Yeah, it's a what was I going to say? It made me think a little bit about my thing, but it's another good documentary. One thing that came up in the documentary was at one point, apparently they couldn't show it, but they actually featured the guys in the frame right now. One of them went on to the show The Shark Tank, which apparently is a big show in the US. It's where you pitch your business idea in front of some people who will donate money to it, and they make fun of them and rip them apart. It's a tough show, whatever. I always thought that show, The Shark Tank, I heard of it, and it sounds really like a Japanese show that used to be shown at 2 a.m. in the morning in Japan years and years ago, called Mane no Tora. And it prompted me while I was watching this documentary to look it up. And although the show in Japan, it only ran for 3 years and it never really got a chance to do really well on regular TV. It was shown late at night, which where a lot of trial shows are shown. Because it was based on regular people, whereas Japanese TV is dominated by Geinokai, by people in the talent, in the actors union. When I looked it up on Wikipedia, I realized that format Shark Tank is a spin-off of the original Japanese show, Mane no Tora, the tiger, the Mane no Tora, the money tiger, was the original Japanese show. And it's a spin-off of a Japanese show, which actually wasn't very successful, which I thought was awesome, 15 years ago. So I thought that was actually really, really cool. Mr. Korichip, your face is awesome. Seriously, I look at it every day. So there are the crazy laws keeping it up. There was a band, a traveling German trombone band that played on a subway train, and they're actually quite good. If you have a listen, it's actually quite good, and it's a bit like you see these videos of people in New York subways, for example, that start musical performances. The thing is, the Japanese subway, the Tokyo subway, is not like the New York subway. It's not a place I would suggest you start busking or start doing music. This was very good. It was apparently very much enjoyed by the person who put it up, and no one criticized it at the time, but when it was put on the internet, there was a lot of debate about, well, if there are people who don't like it, they have to listen to it too, so is that really fair on them? There are people who felt like it was inappropriate. The trombonists ended up apologizing for it, but I thought it was actually quite I don't know, I still feel like it was kind of good. I thought it was good. I don't have any real problem with this, but you could see it triggered a debate in Japan as to whether this was acceptable or not, and in the end they had to apologize for it, which kind of sucks actually. But I suppose I would say, if I was going to give advice to anyone watching the show, should you play your trombone on the train, I would say no, don't do that. But if you're like a world-class traveling trombone group and you exercise reasonable self-control, and if there's any sign of trouble that you stop, I'm kind of like, well, why not? I would like Japan to be a little bit more like that in some ways, but in any case, they apologize for it. The last story that I have tonight was actually sent to me tonight. I did not know this. Walmart is selling prints of Japanese internment camps as perfect wall art. This is kind of crazy. By the way, the items have now been taken down. I think you can go to the site, but yeah, we're having trouble getting that for you. They basically had these posters which they were calling the perfect wall art for any home, bedroom, playroom, classified classroom, dorm room, or office workspace. These are pictures, black and white pictures of Japanese children and women being forcibly detained, taken out of their houses and put into, there are all sorts of ways you can call them internment camps or whatever, but these were, internment camps, these were concentration camps. This is where you would ethnically take a certain ethnicity from within. These were Americans of Japanese ethnicity that were rounded up and were concentrated into camps where they were under detention throughout the war. And we like to use nice euphemisms. They weren't gassed. I know when you say concentration camp, we now think of them as being the Nazi concentration camps, but concentration camps existed in the Boer War. The British had them. They existed in the Russian Civil War, and they existed in New Zealand. We had them in New Zealand for conscientious objectors, and we call them concentration camps. So the term has now got a slightly different meaning. But in the technical definition of concentration camps, these were concentration camps. They should never have happened. And someone at Walmart thought it'd be a really awesome idea to put up wallpapers of people with these. I suppose if you want to remember it as a terrible crime against humanity, sure, that's a great idea. You have to wonder, what the hell were they thinking that was a good idea? So yes, that's right, Mr. Kurichev keeps your internment art next to your Gestapo art. If you want to do like a House of Horrors kind of a thing, I think it'd be excellent. But yeah, so this was a bad idea, I suppose, and it looks like Walmart recognizes this and they've taken it down, but the fact that they did it in the first place was just kind of crazy. It's 43, I've got 1 minute, 1 hour 13 minutes, so look, I'm going to give you some more updates in the coming weeks. It is now in design, and as soon as I've got a beta, I'm going to come back on the question. I would really appreciate if you have thoughts or suggestions about my dilemma, which I shared about, I want to build this thing, I'm going to build this thing because I want this thing, I want it myself, but I also want to share it with all of you guys. I'm going to build a beta that you can use, but it's going to cost me money to get it done, and in terms of recovering the investment amount, and keeping the site live once it's going, Patreon, Kickstarter, ads, or subscription. Subscription seems the easiest way to go to me, but if I do that, what would be justifiable? I'm really curious, and I don't want to kill it. I want to get users to use the site. So I'm thinking about this. I'm going to share this with you guys really soon. It is cool now that it's been, after being stopped for a couple of months, and it's moving forward. Hey Ellswitch, good to have you in here. Just wrapping up at the moment, but yeah, I'd really value what your guys' opinion on this. So look out for that. I'm going to share this and think on it. If you have thoughts, please feel free to share them with me. How about some outro music? Should I do some outro? I'll do some outro music. I haven't prepared a full track like in other weeks, but it is it's the way I like to go out. So let's do this the right way. Where are the headphones? Let me put these ones on. Let's plug in. I'm going to do an outro track, and I will try to get one of these out recorded this week. Start all over. Ellswitch is here. Well, I think I could do that. I should start all over. Well, I will start all over because the show is of course recorded and you can watch it, so you can do it that way. Let me just check that this is working. It is indeed working. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so let me take. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of people like 5 last week. So let's take that and turn on the sounds, and then this will be the outro. So thank you for joining me this week. Stick around if you want to hear 5 minutes of me jamming, and then see you next week for more Tokyo Tonight 2. Audio input capture. Unmute. Let's do this. Video gamey. That'll do. It's a bit of a good sort of video game background sort of a track. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you again next week. It's been great seeing you. See you again soon. And peace. Keep cool till after school. Ka kite ano. Boom. Finish it. Stop streaming. See you later. Oh yeah. Can I show you that? I can't show you that. Let me show you. Since you guys stayed around to the end, let me show you one other really cool little old thing. Boom. There we go. Check it out. Sneak preview. Okay, see you next week. Peace.